How might the concept of remoteness provided by islands enable us to engage in exploring, defining, and imagining care? By 2050, the UN forecasts that more than 2/3 of us will live in urban settings. Many of the world's biggest and most attractive settings are the most dangerous places to live when it comes to our mental health. In their paper on cities and mental health, Grubner et al. Write that as risk factors rise with social isolation, discrimination, and poverty, they contribute to the socio-ecology of cities. Islands are often considered metaphors for isolation, as they offer refuge from society or intentional separation from those elements that challenge us in our survival. Joan Tronto and Bernice Fisher define care as everything that we do to maintain, continue, and repair our world so that we can live in it as well as possible. That world includes our bodies, ourselves, and our environment, all of which we seek to interweave in a complex, life-sustaining web. At the heart of our conversations, we ask, what options can we raise to care for ourselves and others, and can our locale, where we place ourselves, figuratively, literally, and metaphorically, offer the means we seek? And I invite you all to close your eyes. Fragrant Island, a product of Alfred Jarry's 20th century imagination, retreats upon intrusion. Protecting its biodiversity from unwelcome guests, like a finger prodding an anemone, its remote shore retracts and folds upon itself in worry. An intuitive location with the knowledge to be wary of those that did not understand its landscape, the land provided its own system of care. With a defensive shore of madrepores, Jarry created a self-safeguarding island which resonates with historically untouched locations on our planet. Fragrant Island could be read as a foreshadowing of ideal interactions with our planet, where we would be told to turn around. The picture of a sensitive island is now an unfamiliar idea, beyond reversal, and something of a fantasy. You can now open your eyes. As we continue with this presentation, you may begin to draw the first island that comes to mind on reflection of the theory and methodology behind our work. How can the design of care help us to understand the individual and the community? Following the picture of Jarry's Fragrant Island, this conversation will explore, define, and imagine care and remoteness through a number of island scenarios from our present day that allow us to understand differing occurrences of socio-ecological survival, preparation, and safeguarding. These factors will be considered through the lens of remote fictional islands. Instead of following the common trope of utopias frequented in speculative design, these fictional lands will give conversations of design for care, mobility, and locality. Valentine and Candy both note that future visions in and for society are caught in a competing binary between the unthinkably bad and the unimaginably good, i.e., between dystopia and utopia. Like Matt Ward, we will direct the speculative trajectory along a route of care. Interventions of care are functional, sited, tangible, and ongoing. Where speculative design tends towards provocations, dialogues of care enable design to be accessible and mobile through a humanitarian lens, where locals take on an effective agency. Following Haraway, this non-arrogant collaboration will help us to reveal how the world works and to explore dilemmas in and possibilities of care. Access to what the public has come to expect informs the basis for care, be it the community, the practice, or the context of care itself. We will conclude the session with a comparison of different approaches to remote island living, with considerations of care from the varied terrains we collectively explore. In this facilitated activity-based conversation, the design of care will be explored, defined, and imagined via a series of fictional island settings drawn from the Dictionary of Imaginary Places. By utilising fictional locations, participants will have the opportunity to probe care through differing sites with diverse qualities. Di Battista writes of imagination's anticipatory capacity by suggesting it as a condition, a frame of mind that prepares someone to do something, understanding it to be based on knowledge and not on nothing. The use of fictional places is a way to further imagine due to the familiarity and unfamiliarity that participants are invited to think onto the terrains. By probing the collective thought of participants and encouraging material articulation of the conversation, we recognize the importance of imagination and apply it as a thought experiment. For the purposes of this work, imagination will facilitate critically rethinking the structures and modes of care of design. The exploration of these scenarios will help us to reveal how the world works and to explore dilemmas in and possibilities of care. That world includes our bodies, ourselves, and our environment. It is a social and material cast of things, people, and places that will be enacted and thought through by participants. Jessie Beyer writes, "If we can learn anything from our current situation, it is that we cannot just hope the revolution into existence. While everybody is sure that change is right around the corner, that our human power and ingenuity will steer us the right way, while everybody is waiting and seeing, assured that time is on our side while we refresh our news feeds again and again and again, hope is exposed for what it really is, not a motor for change, but a brake. Beyond hoping for some day when the skies will finally part, when realism is exposed as yet another ambit of human philosophical privilege, when we realise that perhaps the earth is not ours to save, we must produce modes of thinking and acting that are capable of short-circuiting the here and now, in order to play out the scene differently. We aim to play out the scene differently during this visualised cartographic conversation, where participants will be encouraged to reflect on their understanding of care through critical, collaborative mapping and discussion. In attending and participating, they will develop their ability to make abstract issues tangible as a way to help demonstrate a point, explore a contradiction in thought, and reach clarification. It is also the possibility to access a session that is a valuable reprieve from the conference-based listening format. We are optimistic that people have the space to discuss aspects of care, to reflect on sessions they have attended, and to synthesize their thoughts collaboratively. Finally, it is an opportunity to explore a topical concept both through an active and engaged session, which is personally relevant and collectively so in this aging and changing world. The mapping exercise will ask, how might a thought experiment involving islands, both real and imaginary, help us to better understand what it means to care for oneself and one's community? The session will provide a brief introduction to the topic and the use of scenarios and thought experiments. We ask participants to draw the first island that comes to mind on reflection of the theory and methodology of this conversation, which you hopefully have done now. This will open up our discussion before participants collectively focus on an example of care through a chosen island test site of care that will set the scene and parameters for defining the conditions of care for and by design. Here you can see 3 different island settings, each with varied population and attributes, which we will discuss collectively. The visual and verbal conversations will be captured through digital drawings and recordings as participants identify and map their definition and interventions of care for their island. The activity will have verbal and visual elements so that participants have the choice in format in order to offer alternatives to verbal discourse. We hope you will enjoy attending.